Did you guys ask yourself how you can create your application for different screen sizes? If you are designing an application for multiple screens, you will definitely need to use constraint and resizing to save your time and also energy. Today, we will design the playlist screen and all of the objects will be adapted to the screen sizes. So let's learn responsive design in Figma. Hi my designer friends, today we will learn how to use constraint and resizing in our design. So let's begin with a super easy example. Let's add a frame to our workspace. Press F on your keyboard and draw a frame. And now let's add a rectangle to our frame. Press R on your keyboard and draw a rectangle. You can add constraint to all of the objects inside your frame. And now I can set constraint to this rectangle inside my frame. From right side panel, you can set constraint in horizontal and vertical directions. In each direction, you have multiple options like left and right, center, and scale. Let's see how these options work. By default, my rectangle has left and top constraint. This means this rectangle will keep relative position to the left and top of my frame. In other words, if I scale this frame, this rectangle will stick to the left top corner. I think you get the main idea of constraint. Now, if I want to put this rectangle to left bottom corner, I will put this here and change the constraint from left to right and top to bottom. And now if I scale this frame, my rectangle sticks to the right bottom corner. If you want to keep relative position from right side and left side together, you can choose left and right constraint. In this way, this rectangle will grow and shrink if I scale this frame in order to keep this relative position from right and left sides. So if I scale this frame, as you can see, my rectangle grow and shrink to keep this position fixed. Sometimes you need to put your objects right in the center of your screen. You can use center constraint. I'm going to put this rectangle right in the center of my frame. And now if I change this constraint to center and center, my rectangle will stick to the center of my frame if I scale this one. Sometimes you need to keep the proportion of your objects inside your frame. You can use scale constraint. If I put scale and scale for both direction in my rectangle, and suppose that my rectangle is 10% of my frame, and now if I resize this frame, always in all sizes, my rectangle is 10% of my frame. Now it is time to create playlist screen. Let's add gradient and these images to our empty frame. If you didn't watch previous lessons about gradients and importing image to our workspace, please check them out. I want this frame of images to be in the center of horizontal axis in all screens. So I'm going to select this frame and put the constraint center to horizontal axis. And now if I scale this frame, these images will always be at the center of our frame. My background gradient should always be scaled as much as my playlist frame scales. So I'm going to put a constraint of left and right to this gradient and resize until it fills the playlist frame. And now if I select playlist frame and resize it, my gradients will scale as much as my frame scales. In the next step, let's add these details to our new frame. And as you can guess now, I want all of these items here to stick to the left side of my frame and this one to stick to the right side of my frame. So let's add constraint to these details. So if I resize playlist frame, all of these items should stick to the right and left side of my screen. Well, all of them works well. Let's move to the next section. Next step is to create this list of songs. Let's create a component for one of these songs and then repeat it multiple times to create this section. If you didn't watch our previous lesson about components, please check them out and learn about components in Figma. Now our component is ready to use. Let's create instance of this component to create our list of songs. If you want to create a list of songs, all of the items should be at the same size. But now my last item is much larger than the others. The problem is with the size of my auto layouts. So I'm going to select my main component. I have used an auto layout in here. From right side panel, I will change resizing options for this auto layout. Now it is by default is fixed width, which means in all conditions my auto layout will have a fixed width. But I want to change the width according to my content. So I'm going to use hug content for this auto layout. So let's select hug content, and now you can see the problem is solved. So let's select all of these items and press Shift A to create an auto layout for all of these items. And now let's rename this auto layout to items or songs, and let's move it to the frame. The last step that we are going to do is to create scalable items, which means when I resize playlist screen, these items should scale and fill this screen in all of the sizes. So we are going to change the constraint for these items. Select it, and from the constraint and resizing, I don't want them to hug contents. I want them to have fixed width but I don't want stick to the left. I want them to have a relative position from both right and left sides. So select left and right, and if I resize playlist frame, my items auto layout, as you can see, fills the screen. But the problem is with these songs. So let's select all of them, and now I want them to scale as much as my main auto layout, which is items, is. So change them from fixed width to fill container, and now ta-ta, the problem is solved. Let's see how it works. Yes, we did it, and now we have a scalable screen. For practicing more, you can play around with these two components that we have created in the previous lesson. Please create the components and make them scalable, put them in your frame. Thanks for watching this video. If you like it, please hit the like button and subscribe our channel. Wait for our next super cool tutorials. If you have any comments or any feedbacks for us, we will be happy to hear from you guys. Let us know what you think about our process and our tutorials. Happy designing!